Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday session here at Namaste Lake Chapala. Let's just take a nice deep breath. My heart is longing for you, beloved. Those are the words of the song that we just shared. That feeling and that sense of overwhelming longing for what? That's one of the questions we might ask. What is it we're longing for? Who is it we're longing for? Is it some deity outside of us, or is it something that is so intimate, even more intimate than our very breath? Who and what is it that we're longing for? You know, many of you probably realize that I wrote a book about the name of God, the Moses Code. And so it's something that I think about a lot, and it's something that I notice a lot as well. When I'm reading different passages from the Bible, for example, it will refer often to the name of God. For example, in the most common and universal Christian prayer, it begins by saying, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." But then people just keep on going, and they don't stop and ask the important question, well, what is that name? Holy is your name. Okay, but isn't that something I should know at this point? What is that name? If it has the power to unlock something inside me because of its holiness, what is that? That's what I'm longing to know. I'm going to give you a bad joke alert now because I'm about to tell a bad one. But I remember when I was a kid, I literally thought that the name of God was Howard. Yes, Howard. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's what I thought they were saying. Well, it's not Howard. And it's none of the other so-called names that we might claim. You know, in fact, in a Jewish perspective, an Orthodox Jewish perspective, the name Yahweh is not even to be pronounced. It can't even be spoken. And so they would substitute letters, or they would just spell the word to get around it so that they didn't have to actually say the name. Or as I write about in the Moses Code, when Moses first asked, well, who shall I say sent me? And he said, tell them, Ehie Asher Ehie. I am that I am. But once again, what is that name? And can we call upon it? And if we do call upon it, what does it inspire within us? As I said before, so often when you're reading different scriptures, it'll refer to that name, but that's all it will do. For example, this morning I was just reading, and this is from the first song of Isaiah. It says, "Give thanks to the Lord and call upon his name. Make deeds known among the people. See that they remember that his name is exalted." Call upon his name. Okay, tell me more. Make sure his name is exalted. Are we talking about that unspeakable name? Or is it something else? Is there something, I know a lot of people that say, well, God's name is God. What else could it be? Well, God is not a name. That's like calling your dog, dog. It's like calling your wife, woman. That's not a name. It's a title. There's something that is calling us into an experience of intimacy, of oneness, of union with the divine. And when we are able to not even speak that name, but to move through that name into that intimate experience, words cannot say. No name can be spoken that can come close to that intimate experience with the divine. And isn't this what we're really longing for? Even, for me, when I say beloved, that song we just shared, beloved, beloved, listen to me. Maybe this is as close as we can come in form, but even that needs to be laid down. The object needs to be laid down. The idea that there is an object outside of ourselves, that once I know that name, now I can have a relationship with that one. That may be an important step, certainly an important step past where we usually are, but even that must be laid down. As it says in A Course in Miracles, come with holy, empty hands unto your God. Because truly the name of the divine cannot be spoken, not because there's a word that we should substitute letters for, but because it is so far beyond our comprehension, but it can be experienced. That intimacy, that union, that oneness with whatever you want to call it. This is what we're here for, and this is what we stress here every day. Move through that into the experience of my oneness with that. And then all names fade, all objects are laid aside, and I am left only with thee. I am left only in that intimate, holy embrace. This is what we're longing for. And don't be fooled. It is about longing. It is about devotion. So many people will say, well, why should I long for that which I am? But even to say those words means that you're just dealing with it intellectually. Someone told me that I'm one with God, and that's enough for me. No, it's not enough. It's not even close. If you are deeply in love with someone, would you be satisfied just to know that they're out there somewhere? Could be on the other side of town, could be on the other side of the world. Would you be satisfied with knowing that they're there somewhere, even though you deeply, deeply love them? Of course you wouldn't. Just knowing intellectually that you're one with God does and means nothing. It's that intimate embrace, and when that intimate embrace becomes whole, there is a fusion, there is a union where I'm able finally to lay aside the idea of me. This has been really the only prayer that has meant anything to me here in this anchor hold. The prayer of help me to lay aside the idea of me, the concept of me. Because I am not an idea, just as God is not an idea. It's a real experience that I can enjoy in an intimate embrace the moment I long only for thee. When my heart stretches out and my soul is longing only for that intimate experience. This is what Jesus was talking about when asked, what's the greatest of all of the commandments? And he said, you shall love the Lord your God. You shall love the beloved. You shall love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole soul. Whole. That's the key word. To love God wholly. So this is the experience that we've been called to, and the question now is, will we respond? Or are we simply content to pretend, to go halfway, to call upon, to pray different prayers, to say these words, but to never go deeper than the words, never dive into the experience? I say, why not now? Why not allow that experience like an ocean wave just to take you and pull you? Let the riptide of God's current pull you out into the deepest part of the ocean, because that's where you really want to be. That's what your heart is longing for, to dissolve, to be no more as an identity. That may sound scary to some people, to be no more as an identity. But when you experience that and you feel that embrace of whatever you want to call it, words simply can't go there. Concepts fall apart. But then everything else opens. Everything else is revealed. So call upon the name of God, certainly, but don't just stop there. Let your heart reach out and that longing be complete through union with God, because that's the only thing that's ever going to satisfy your soul. So, that being said, now that I've set the bar, let's see if Vicky can take us to that place of deep experience.
Good morning, James Francis. Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm grateful we're doing all this. So you might not like this, Jimmy, but the truth is, if our intention in our heart belongs to God to love, I don't think it matters if we say Mickey Mouse all day
No,
long.
I don't disagree. I
It's like
fully agree.
Coca-Cola, Mickey Mouse, whatever. The idea is no different than what Jesus said, and I think it's in the Old Testament also, let your eye be single. And what is a single eye? It just means my attention, my full attention is on spirit, on whatever that invisible presence is under any name, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, God, I am. When my eye is single, it just means I'm not allowing it to run off and be distracted by engaging all these other ideas and thoughts. And I see that all that happens is, and anyone can do it, saint to sinner. You don't have to be in a anchor hole. We don't have to be anywhere, but the ability to stay taken care of and focus certainly helps to recognize where the distractions are and to cut them out. Just stop it. Just stop it and go back to let your eye be single and rest in it. Refusing. It's like really taking a stand with ourselves. And that's why all of the traditions really teach mindfulness. Because when our full attention, that's what longing is. Longing is just a word if it isn't expressed as a full attention and focus on the divine, however we think of it or feel it or call it. But when we pay attention to only that, that's longing fulfilled. And the fulfillment in time always comes as some kind of interior experience of peace. Sometimes it comes as revelation. Sometimes it comes as bilocating. Sometimes it comes as a whirling dervish in ecstasy. But the bottom line is, because love is always total, it comes in some very delicious feeling of peace. It's what Joel Goldsmith calls that click. We just kind of click and you fall into it. And then it's that riptide. It takes over, but ever so beautifully. And you can't wait to give it away. That's why Jesus, the first thing he said when he got out of the tomb, peace be with you. My peace I give to you. Those are really the only instructions after the resurrection, to go and give our peace, go and give forward the peace of Christ in our presence, our very presence. If our eye stays single and we refuse to engage all kinds of solutions or projects or goals of any kind or assessments and all kinds of things, from mild to wild, from grievance to good plans, let them all unfold jubilantly through us, and they will. Life is meant to be celebrated here in time, regardless of any outside picture. But it cannot be that when our eye is not single. And that is the longing fulfilled. And that's all longing is my attention is here. And in time, when there are devastating pictures, this is the practical piece, because there are devastating pictures all over the place. And for a moment, they capture my attention, but I see, because I've been watching, especially since yesterday, for the instruction you gave, I like it. What do I do with that when I hear about this and that? And I see, I go right back to, here I am, Lord. I don't know how to be helpful here, but you got my full attention. Please help me, use me, help me fall into that state of grace where communication is natural. I have no idea what to do, but here I am, Lord, right back to here I am. And in that it isn't just trust. There's a knowing that as there's that total here I am, there's a total receptivity that takes hold of me. And I trust that. But I don't trust it with blind faith. I know it's so. And that's longing again fulfilled. So I just stay there. I live there. Here I am. And then open my eyes and be the peace that blesses whatever's in front of me. Amen.
Amen. How could I ever not agree with what you say? We're always saying
Mickey Mouse,
the
Mickey
exact same.
Mouse.
Mickey Mouse is a perfectly acceptable name as long as your pure, full, single-eyed attention is upon Mickey. Now, for my granddaughter, it would be Minnie Mouse, but
Yes.
Mickey will work fine as well.
Right.
Christina,
You
I see
know,
you're. Nope, I'm sorry.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead,
I
Vicky.
was just going to say one little thing. In Arabic, there's a word called Hanuna. Hanuna means pure of heart. And my father used to say that to me, Hanuna. And what it means is pure of heart means your full attention of your being is in love. That's all it means. And we all can do that. That's very doable. That's all. Thank you.
That's all. That's all. That's all that we need right there. So, good morning, Christina. Good to see you as well.
Good morning. Hi. Hey, Vicky, I have a question for you. Are you always in the car so that you're not bothered, or are you actually always driving somewhere?
It's always going
You know,
somewhere.
it's unfolding. Today I'm in New Jersey at my son's house. Both my son and his wife work at home, so they're on Zooms. So everybody's talking all over. The dog is barking. So I came to the car because we're going to go visit some of Big Teddy's cousins here in New Jersey. So I am in the car a lot, but I don't come out just to get quiet. But I am today. Thank you, Christina.
Well, it's lovely to see your face, and I love all the bright lights surrounding you. Good morning, everyone. Your sharing this morning, Jimmy, reminded me of something that actually was a very powerful revelation during some years when I was gifted the opportunity to share deeply with a friend. I had a woman who loved Joel Goldsmith, and we would come together sometimes nearly every day of the week. She was in her 70s, and I would come to her house, and we would sit in her blue room, and I would read to her. And this is where I really came to know intimately the experience where two or more are gathered, I am there.
Mm.
There's definitely places that only we can be taken, or we can be allowed to experience on our own. And there's also a power in joining in that God space together. And that was a powerful piece of this. But what really was even more powerful was the recognition. You know, she had grown up in churches. She was very devoted to God. And whenever we would read, she would be so touched to go into prayer. And she would say the most elaborate, longest, most beautiful prayers I had ever heard in my life that just flowed off the tip of her tongue. And because I loved her, and because I loved, you know, the being in that space was so profound, the power of just being in there in that was beautiful. But what began to happen was, as I was sitting in silence and listening to her prayer, it was being revealed to me that she actually was being taken out of the God space by her prayer because she was in words. Mm. And it revealed the truth that real prayer, real connection with God can only be found beyond words in the silent recess of our own soul, within our own heart. And it's been years now since those experiences, and she's still in prayer, and she has not experienced and really found God. That longing is still there. I love how you shared longing fulfilled, Vicki, because in the beginning, we are hungry, or somewhere along the path. It doesn't have to be the beginning, but we're hungry, and that seed is planted in us to ensure our devotion. It is God itself that is creating that hunger so that we won't turn away. And we won't turn away as we're given all the temptations that come before us, whether it's, a new love or whatever addictions that we may have had, no matter how subtle, even if it's just even to prayer, right? To speaking versus allowing ourselves to rest in silence. But eventually, that merging and that melting as one with God, the experience of it becomes consistent. It's no longer just happening in moments. It is fulfillment itself. And so as we set ourselves aside, as we're willing to set ourselves aside, I love how Joel Goldsmith says, two people cannot enter the kingdom of God. No, you cannot take anybody with you into your path of the kingdom of God. It is a silent, intimate, all-consuming experience that cannot and will not happen until we're willing to give ourselves up, to merge into that melting, and to become comfortable in the silence. For so many people, that really is the barrier, that they're so used to listening to the television and listening to the thoughts in their head that there's not a real honest willingness to just rest in the silence. The temptation to do this or to create that or to be this or to connect with this person or that person or make another meal or whatever it is. Those simple temptations are what take us from the full, consistent, moment to moment experience of our God self. So the silence beyond words, the willingness to set the mind aside, the personality, the me, the willingness as I feel that click, as I feel the merging with God, the willingness not to go to the mind and go, oh my God, I'm experiencing it, I'm here. There's still a me in that situation. And then I've been taken out of my oneness with the Father, with the Source. And it wasn't until I really allowed myself to just completely be absorbed by that silent space that I came to know oneness, not just as an experience or recognition of the mind, but as I actually am the current that flows through all life. There can be it's so obvious that there is no separation. It's so obvious that there is no discord. It's so obvious that there is no me in that recognition. There just is. God is. And I love, Vicki, how you shared, it doesn't matter what we call it, it's true. It's always been interesting to me how some people share Jesus speaks to me, or Allah speaks to me, or Mary Magdalene speaks to me. And it's beautiful that that voice is coming through. And in my recognition and the recognition that I've seen, it is just God. We are the ones that apply the persona, the form to it.
Right.
And whatever form we've assigned to it in our own lives is often what we'll see as we transition out of the body. You know, I'll be working with people who are dying, and they say, you know, Mother Mary is welcoming me. They've given themselves that form. They've been devoted to that form throughout their lives. And so, of course, that's how they're going to see it. We create our own reality based on our own perception. That's why when we set all perception aside, we actually are allowed to experience the truth. And the truth has no form, no name, no definition, it just is. Peace, love, joy, understanding, true understanding. So may we all merge, may we all gather and merge in that silent, empty space. Not just for 15 minutes or an hour at the beginning of the day, but all day long. When we find ourselves in thought, when we find ourselves distracted, we just simply return to the silent space within. It does the work.
Yes. Thank you, Christina. That was beautiful. Help me to lay aside the idea of me. Help me lay aside the idea of me. I can't do that on my own. All I can do is be willing. All I can do is enter that silence and allow it to be done, because it never was done. The idea of me was just a fantasy, really. And the willingness to lay aside that fantasy and just rest in God. That's what this is for.